we do have one more big issue here, is that when we move to the left, the character still looks like it's running to the right, which that's not right. So I'm going to go back to my script. What we need to do is we need to flip the character. When we're moving to the left, we want to make sure he's pointing left. So we want to make a flag that says whether or not is the character facing right or not. So I'm going to create a new variable. This one will be private. Private bool is facing right. And we'll set this to be equal to true. By default, our character is facing to the right. So we just want to make it so if we're moving left, then it should be left. How do we do that? Well, inside of our update function, underneath where we do horizontal move, I want to say, well, if my horizontal move is greater than 0, because remember, if we're facing right, then you should be facing right. Input movement to the right is positive, to the left is negative. So if our horizontal move is greater than 0, it's positive. That means you should be facing right. If horizontal move is greater than 0 and double ampersand is not facing right, so is facing right, but with an exclamation point at the front. And if we're not facing right, then we want to flip. I'm going to write a comment here. We'll finish that later. So we're facing right. We want to be able to face the other way. So, but let's say we're facing left, or we're moving to the right, then we should flip the character so it's actually facing the proper direction. But if we're facing right and we start moving left, we want it to flip to go to the opposite direction. We want to do that programmatically. Well, we have this if horizontal move is greater than 0 and not facing right. Cool. Then we also want to do else if horizontal move is less than 0 and is facing right. If we're moving to the left, but we're facing right, we want to also flip. Well, how do we actually do the flip? We have a couple different ways of doing this. The easiest one is to modify the scale of our character, but we run into some issues with attacks later. So instead we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to create a new function, private void flip. I'm going to make a function called flip. It's going to handle flipping. Up here where I have this comment that says / flip, I'm then just going to call flip instead. Same with down here. So this is going to flip the sprite. So this is going to flip the sprite whenever we're facing the wrong direction. How do we actually flip it? Well, inside of this flip function, if parenthesis is facing right, so if we're facing right, then we want to modify our character's transform to be pointing the opposite direction. So I'm going to do transform dot Euler angles or Euler angles equals new vector 3 0 180 0, and then a semicolon at the end. What is this? Well, the transform is made of 3 parts: position, rotation, and scale. We want to get the rotation, and we want to apply something called Euler angles or Euler angles to create a new vector 3 of 180. So it's going to flip or rotate the character along the Y by 180 degrees. So it'll face the opposite direction. Now we want to also do if we're not facing right. So I'm going to copy and paste. And I'm going to say, paste it there. I'll say else if is not facing right. Remember, exclamation point means not. Else if it's not facing right, then transform.Euler angles equals new vector 3 0 0 0. And so now the character can flip. One last line of code. We want to actually turn off is facing right anytime we're facing left. So I'll say is facing right is equal to not is facing right, semicolon. What is this? What did I just do? This is saying we're going to set the flag that says if we're facing right to be the opposite of what it currently is. So if is facing right is true, if it's true, then we want to set it to be equal to not true, which is false. If it's false, we want it to be equal to not false, which is true. So we have a little flag that will change based on whether or not we're facing right or left. All right, that's kind of a lot, I know, but let's go ahead and compile and test and see what happens. Press play. I'm facing right, and I'm moving right. If I go left, I'm now facing left. And back and forth. My animation doesn't change. The only thing that changes is the artwork, whether or not it's being flipped. Now, there are a few other ways of doing this. One thing we could do is we could just modify the sprite itself and not the player character. But we're eventually going to end up having some things that we want to flip with the player, such as his hitbox for attacking. So we want the whole thing to flip with us. But that's going to be it for this video. Thanks.